Ohio State is going to be there. They just loaded up in the offseason with NIL, not only going and getting guys, but paying guys to stay. I mean, I think that's kind of a big deal, and that's going to be a big deal moving forward in college football. But
greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today is our favorite team leader, Mike King, as well as former national sports writer and now super fan of Notre Dame, Jake Charlotte. On today's show, we're going to kick off the anticipated greatest season in college football history by going through Power 4 teams in segment 1, Group of 5 teams in segment 2, and in segment 3, we will talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only as we get you ready for this exciting season. Gentlemen, I want to start off, Mr. King, SEC. The big question is, can the SEC get 4 teams into the college football playoffs? What do you think, man?
I think 3 is going to be the number for the SEC and the Big Ten. I think they'll give the other half to everyone else. I just, they like to have their story. There's going to be teams that have these ridiculous records because they played nobody. They're going to get in. So I'm thinking 3, and this is the year, so we'll figure it out. But I'm thinking 3 for the 2 conferences that matter, 6 for everybody else.
All right, Jake, do you think the SEC can get 4 teams in?
I think it's certainly possible. I mean, you look at last year, Alabama getting in over Florida State. Obviously, people have a great deal of respect for the SEC. And I was just looking at the AP top 25. Georgia 1, Texas 4, Alabama 5, Ole Miss 6. I mean, there you go, right there. Even Missouri is 11, LSU 13. But I mean, you got those 4 teams. I think there's no question Georgia's going to be there. I'm really interested to see about Ole Miss this year. They've kind of been one of these teams that feels like they're right on the cusp for a long time. But the flip side of this coin, I guess, is now that you have the expanded SEC with Texas and these guys coming in, and it's just a murderer's row every week. Like, do they beat each other up to the point that the records aren't so good that they only get 3? So,
all right. So, Mike, you gave a little bit of a preview, but now let's really break this down. Can the Big Ten get 3 teams in the playoffs? You have to think Ohio State, Oregon, some combination of that. But is this Penn State's final year to finally get in? I've been following James Franklin and strictly for entertainment purposes only been underwhelmed. Can the Big Ten get 3 in, Mike?
The Big Ten could definitely get 3, and they don't need James Franklin to get there, I don't think. You remember, Big Ten's adding a bunch of schools. Oregon's going to be really, really good. Ohio State's always good. Michigan's off a championship. And, they lost a lot, but one of the things they lost was a quarterback that's easily replaceable. So
inside joke fans.
I think those 3 could make it. I think, Penn State, sure, but I don't trust James Franklin. Back in his Maryland days, it was wide receiver screen, loss of 2, wide receiver screen, loss of 2, wide receiver screen, loss of 2, and punt. Hate James Franklin. Love seeing Penn State just always here. Just right, never there. But yeah, I think 3.
All right. I love your level of petty, as fans know. Jake, you covered these teams back in the day. Come on. Big Ten, can they get 3 in clean?
I think so, because Ohio State is going to be there. They just loaded up in the offseason with NIL, not only going and getting guys, but paying guys to stay. I mean, I think that's kind of a big deal, and that's going to be a big deal moving forward in college football. But I think Ohio State and Oregon are definitely there. Then it's just a matter of whether you get one of the other 2, Michigan or Penn State, or maybe there's an Iowa or somebody who sneaks in. But yeah, I kind of agree with both of you on Penn State. It's been, a team that, boy, I was really wishing they would knock Michigan off last year for me, and they couldn't do it. So yeah, it's been a rough run. I think they felt it's another team that's just felt like they're right there, and they can't get over the hump.
Almost knocked off Michigan, Maryland.
Yeah.
Don't sleep. If they figure out the quarterback, if Morris from NC State or Billy Edwards, if one of them could take that step, they've got talent.
Jake,
Yeah.
while I got you, Ryan Day. This guy has an incredible record except against one team. Should he be on the hot seat, or are fans and media people just crazy? What do you think, man?
I think it's a little. I, I think he is, like it or not, because the fans are crazy. But I mean, the guy has done an incredible job of assembling talent, and it's unfortunate. I mean, there. If you look back at that Michigan Ohio State rivalry, there are a lot of ebbs and flows, and you have great teams. I think it was John Cooper that couldn't get over the hump against Michigan, and it's tough when you have that one team. Even Harbaugh had a little bit of a rough time early, the first few years of his career, and then he finally got over that hump. I kind of feel like this is kind of the year they do it. Michigan coming off a national championship, new coach, new quarterback, and Ohio State is loaded. So I think this is probably their year.
All right. So, Mike, I'm going to go to you. Big 12. All right. Can the Big 12 get two into the playoffs? We know a lot of folks are high on Utah, and whoever their champion is going to get in. But can the Big 12 get two in?
So this is where it starts to get tough because you have to look at like how many does the ACC get and how many does Notre Dame get in and things like that. I'm thinking one. I just look at the names, right? Like I don't even forget because this is what the committee does. They look at the names. That's how they make their decisions half the time too. They're just fans. We act like they know what they're doing. You look at the names, none of the names jump out as like that should be a playoff team. So no, I think one.
All right, Jake, come on, man. Can the Big 12 sneak in a second team? What do you think?
I mean, maybe sneak one in. I think I like Utah to win it, but boy, yeah, it's this conference is down. Maybe an Oklahoma State, a West Virginia, somebody sneaks in, but I don't know. I think I would go with one from the Big 12.
All right. And Jake, again, while I got you, in your previous life, you actually covered Colorado sports on a regular basis. What are your thoughts on the Colorado Buffaloes? The over-under is 5.5. Again, strictly for entertainment purposes only. But can Dion have a better year too? Because let's face it, he had one-win talent and everybody was upset about the transfer portal. Of course, you're going to get new players in when the previous regime had only won one game. So he went from 1 win to 4 wins, which in any metrics is good.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets the 5 or 6, shouldn't that be like lauded as doing the right thing? What are your overall thoughts on Dion's job at Colorado?
Well, I mean, look, he's an outsized personality, so everything that he does is going to be amplified one way or the other. I think probably the worst thing that probably could have happened for him is that 3-0 start last year, and especially the win in the opener, just set the expectations way too high. And you look back, and the teams that they beat weren't nearly as good as what everyone thought at the beginning of the season. So it kind of inflated these expectations for him. I think this year the key will be, it seems to, just from what I've heard and read, that he's shorn up the offensive line a little bit, and it was a huge problem for him last year. But they've clearly got talent. His son can sling it. He's a good ball player, and he's got some weapons. So if that offensive line is shorn up a little bit, then maybe he takes a step. I agree with you. I mean, I think if he gets to 6 wins this year, you go from taking over a team that's a 1-win team, and you're kind of building up that at that level. I think 6 wins would be a success for him.
All right. And you also have to remember, fans, they're going to a new conference. So all of your old tape doesn't matter. You got to get new tape. Okay, Mike, I'm going to the ACC. Can the ACC get 2 teams in?
I think
You really do?
definitely. Because Florida State's good. So Florida State's 1. And then you've got a bunch of bites at the apple. You got Miami, Clemson, who one of them is going to win 9-10 games. And again, we're looking at this like the old days when there's only 2 or 4 teams that get in. 12 teams are getting in. So 10-win Clemson team or a 9-win Clemson team, they're in the conversation. Miami could be good. NC State's got an easy schedule. A lot of them have an easy schedule because the ACC stinks. So they're going to pile up wins. And I think, I don't know if strictly for entertainment purposes if this is something you bet on, but I think ACC 2, I like that a lot.
Okay, Jake, you watch a lot of ACC football for obvious reasons. What do you think? Can the ACC get 2 teams in?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think Florida State is going to be in, and I think Clemson it should be back. I think they had a little bit of a down year last year, but I like both those two teams. And as Mike said, the competition level throughout the conference is not great. You look at some of the teams in Duke, which was kind of on the way up. They lost their head coach, lost their quarterback. So I think Clemson and I would go with Clemson and Florida State. Maybe Miami is kind of knocking on the door as well.
All right, Jake, I'm going to switch and start with you. We do cover independents, and the one independent we cover is Notre Dame. Can Notre Dame, Jake, win enough games to sneak into the playoffs? What do you think, sir?
I think so, and they better. I mean, the schedule sets up so well for them. And actually, I saw it. I think on one of the sites they were an odds-on favorite to make the college football playoff. The schedule is very favorable. There's only a handful of true road games. Unfortunately, they start at Texas A&M. It's going to be a real big test in that environment, especially because the one area, believe it or not, for Notre Dame that's a little bit unsettled and uncertain this year is the offensive line. There's a good chance, from what I've heard, they're going to be starting a freshman at left tackle. Their offensive line is going to have two sophomores, two sophomores, a freshman, two juniors, maybe two freshmen. It's going to be a very young offensive line, inexperienced. But the difference is this year they've got a lot of playmakers. They added Riley Leonard from Duke. They've got two great backs in Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love, look for him to have a huge year in a new offense. They brought in 3 receivers from the transfer portal. Chris Mitchell, Bo Collins from Clemson is going to be very good. They've got some guys healthy. Their tight end from last year, who was having such a good year, Mitchell Evans, he's back and healthy. So the offensive weapons are a lot better than they were in the past when, you kind of just leaned on the offensive line. So if that offensive line comes together, the offense, and they've got Mike Denbrock as the offensive coordinator, who they brought back from LSU, the offense could be really good. The defense, I think, is going to be extremely strong at both ends. The defensive line is going to play maybe 10 deep. I mean, they are very strong up front. They've got 2 great cornerbacks in Benjamin Morrison, returning All-American, and Christian Gray. And they've got Xavier Watts, who's the returning defensive player of the year at safety. The question a little bit is the linebackers. There's a lot of youth there, but there's a lot of skill as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think if they can get past Texas A&M, look out, because they'll probably be 9-0, I think, when they face Florida State, and they get Florida State at home. So they basically got A&M, Florida State, and then closing the season at USC, and who the heck knows what USC is going to be this year. So I think it would be an understatement to say it will be a big disappointment for people in South Bend if they don't make the playoff and if they don't host a game.
Oh, hosted the game at South Bend. Mike, did Jake convince you?
I was already convinced. I'm looking at the schedule. They got three ranked teams and 9 pretty much garbage. I mean, Virginia's terrible, Army, Navy, Georgia Tech, Stanford, Louisville, Miami of Ohio, Purdue, Northern Illinois. That's 9 games. If they lose any of those, it would be shocking.
Louisville's sneaky.
Yeah, I'd still be shocked at Notre Dame. So
and Louisville beat them last year pretty good, so they'll be ready.
They want revenge.
Yeah,
and at Notre Dame. So then the question is, if they win the games they're supposed to and lose the 3 against the good teams, do they get in? And I think they would, because they're going to be picking between Notre Dame and what was the second best team in the Big 12, and they're going to say, do we want Notre Dame and their fans there, or do we want the team that's not as good as Utah? I mean, it's not a question. To me, it's not a question. So it'll be interesting, though. That's going to be the most interesting thing about the college football season, is when they get to the end, do they go for style, or do they go for substance? Do they want the helmet, or do they want the better team? And if Notre Dame did go 9-3 and lost to the 3 good teams, it would be fascinating to see, do they still get in? And if they do, we know what this playoff is. It's just a continuation of the status quo.
Well, as a teaser for fans in segment 3, we will go through the rules and regulations of the college football playoff because Mike and I are social studies teachers and we don't believe in conspiracy theories. And with that, in segment 2, we'll talk about Group of 5 teams. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful anecdotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasaveproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment 2, let's talk Group of 5 teams. Mike, the American. So one Group of 5 team will make the college football playoffs. Our charge today is to find out which ones we need to follow. Throughout the year, we'll talk about Group of 5 teams, but we're really going to talk about these teams. So Mike, the American, I'm looking at Memphis, and I'm also, as a dark horse, looking at University of Texas San Antonio, good old UTSA. Which team out of the American do you think has the best shot of being that Group of 5 member?
And this one's tough. It's kind of a coin flip. It's going to come down to that big game. I kind of like Memphis.
Okay. Jake, what about you, the American? I'm looking at Memphis, UTSA. What do you think?
I think it's Memphis. I think Memphis is going to be right up there for having that spot in the playoff. They're one of a handful of teams I could see make it in there.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to you for the Mountain West / Pac-2. Everybody is high on Boise. They're the highest ranked Group of 5 team coming into the season, and they're not even in the top 25. Do you think Boise can be that Group of 5 team?
Yeah. I mean, just they've got the pedigree. I think it's theirs to lose.
Okay. Jake, what about you, sir? Boise State, a lot of folks are talking about Boise State. Do you think they're that team that can sneak in and be that Group of 5 representative?
Yeah, I think they're, like Mike said, they're the number 1 ranked team out of the Group of 5s. They've had a lot of success in the Mountain West. There are a couple other teams in there that could give them a little trouble. I mean, the team I used to cover, Air Force, it's always tough for me to sleep on them just because of their style of play and how disciplined they are, and they could make a little run themselves. But if I had to say one team, it'd definitely be Boise State.
Yay. Mike, Conference USA, Liberty's got a soft schedule, and they're going to run through this thing, but will they have enough smoke and mirrors to have a claim for that Group of 5 playoff berth? What do you think?
I mean, if they do what they have to, then yeah. But
they play nobody.
I kind of like FIU. They got a good quarterback. They got some good players on the O-line. Solid defense. I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of gave a run in the conference.
Jake, Liberty cooked the books, man. Can they sneak into the Group of 5 berth? What do you think?
I mean, I think they got to go undefeated, and they got to hope that Boise State stumbles a little bit. The resume is going to be, like you said, it's soft. So they're going to have to put up some crazy numbers and hope that there's not another clear choice from that Group of 5.
Okay. Mike, Sun Belt. I like JMU and Texas State, strictly for entertainment purposes only. JMU got robbed last year. I know what the rules are, but come on, man. Support these kids. Now it's live. Can either one of those get the Group of 5 berth?
I think JMU for sure. I think if this existed last year, I think they would have had a strong case to be made. And it's not just football. JMU is doing it across multiple sports. I don't know how they're so competitive on probably a tenth the budget, but they're doing it. People should be stealing lots of their coaches. I think they did lose. They lose the football coach. I think they lost the head coach, but
The football coach went to Indiana, sir.
but they hired someone they liked that they're high on. Another young guy. I think JMU is doing it right, so I wouldn't bet against them. Just not just football, just the athletic director, the structure, all the way down across their sports. So when I see things like that, programs that are run correctly, I'm going to pick those programs. JMU is one of them right now.
All right, Jake. I know JMU is close to you and your family. Shout out to your lovely wife. What are you thinking in the Sun Belt? JMU or Texas State or somebody else?
I'm going with JMU. I'm also impressed just with how they've built that program, having gone to some games, 15, 20 years ago and seeing what it is now. I mean, I remember looking at when they had the college game day there. It was insane. All the kids out there. I mean, they've got a lot of support for the program. That the stadium is like 5 times as big as it was. And they're rolling. I mean, it's amazing how far they've come from, 1AA national champion and contender to now just jumping right into the FCS and competing basically immediately. So I'd roll with the Duke Dogs.
All right. Mac, we all like our Tuesday Maction, Mike. Can Toledo tease us this year?
They can tease you, but the Miami Redhawks will win the conference. So that could be your tease. Second place.
Right. Okay. Jake, any Maction for you? Toledo, Miami. Can anybody hold our attention long enough to say maybe?
Oh, Miami of Ohio. They've got a very, very strong team this year. I think, they're actually visiting Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's 3rd game of the season. But they've got a strong team, well coached, and I expect them to be very good this year.
All right. And to close, Jake, I'm going to come to you first. We're going to follow HBCUs on the side this year, historically Black colleges and universities in terms of their season. And then one team in particular has had a very busy all season, FAMU. FAMU is the best and the worst of what we like and hate about HBCUs. So I want your reporter hat on with this, Jake. I'm going to give you some data and tell me what you would look into for a story based off what I tell you. Okay. So Tiffany Dawn Sykes, she was the athletic director, and she is out as vice president and director of athletics, and that was done a week or two ago from this taping.
Okay.
During her tenure, their teams won SWAC titles, Celebration Bowls. Baseball has won, tennis has won, women's cross country, track and field, all won SWAC titles. The football team is defending HBCU national champions, and their head coach left to take a position coach job at Duke. Finally, their new basketball coach, Patrick Crary, friend of the show, has a 1-year deal for $150,000 because his 3-year contract signed by Tiffany Dawn Sykes was voided because they didn't like the hire. So based off all of this and the success they've had, she's out as AD. And I'll give you one more thing. She was recently named Nike Division I FCS Executive of the Year for 2023 last month. So using your reporter skills, what kind of questions would you ask based off that data?
Well, I mean, I think the first question is pretty obvious. What's going on here? Why are you cutting ties with somebody who's had this level of success? If I was, covering that school, the first thing I would be doing is going to all my sources who I trust and saying, okay, there's got to be something going on here. What's the real story? Because that's just not, there's got to be some sort of personality conflict, or somebody just doesn't like someone. That's the only thing I can think of, because especially in college athletics these days, the only thing that matters is success. and having good coaches, being attractive program to bring people in. And if you're having that kind of success all across the board, there's something going on. There's some other issue there rather than it's obviously not it because it can't be performance based. I mean, it literally cannot be performance based. So you got to dig and find what's going on. My sense would be, or I guess without knowing any of the situation at all, my first thought would be there's probably some sort of personality conflict somewhere, and or maybe they've got their friend who they want to bring in. You never know. So it's got to be something like that based on the records.
All right. And Mike, you have been an athletic administrator and you've also done some union type work as well. With the data I gave you, what type of things cross your mind if this was put across your desk? Any thoughts you have as we close up this segment?
There's a board somewhere who makes the decisions. And if I had to guess, there's a problem between someone on the board and the AD. Historically, that's generally how this plays out. I'm doing a quick Google search. There was a confrontation in June between a board member and the AD. And again, everything we know in our profession, board rules out. Board wins.
Board wins. That's a great way.
Board wins.
That's a great way to end this segment. So in segment 3, fans, we will talk about the college football playoff process as well as things strictly for entertainment purposes only. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Safe Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Safe Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasafeproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Safe Project today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment 3, get your pens and pencils out because we're going to explain the college football playoff process. And then I, on behalf of the Odd Coaches Podcast, will talk about my overall season bet strictly for entertainment purposes only. So the college football playoff, the 12 participating teams will be the 5 highest ranked conference champions by the College Football Playoff Committee, plus the next 7 highest ranked teams. The 4 highest ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4 and will receive a bye. The 5th conference champion will be seeded where it was ranked or at 12 if it's outside of the top 12. Non-conference champions ranked in the top 4 will be seeded beginning at 5. Because of this, seeding 1 through 12 could look different than the final ranking, so please keep that in mind. The 8 teams seeded 5 through 12 will play in the first round, with the higher seed hosting the lower seed either on campus or at other sites designated by the higher seed institution. 12 at 5, 11 at 6, 10 at 7, and 9 at 8. So with that, every week we're going to rank the top 17 teams in the country based on the CFP committee. So gentlemen, I anticipate the following conference champions: Georgia from the SEC, Ohio State from the Big Ten, Florida State from the ACC, Utah from the Big 12, and Memphis will, in my prediction, be the highest ranked group of 5 team at 5 from the AAC, which takes us to the next 7. Oregon from the Big 10, Texas from the SEC, Alabama from the SEC, Ole Miss from the SEC, Notre Dame as an independent, Michigan from the Big Ten, and Penn State from the Big Ten. This is all based on the preseason AP poll. And then the top four that will get buys and all of that, we won't worry about. But based on the current preseason rankings, SEC gets 4 in. Big Ten gets 4. ACC gets 1. Big 12 gets 1. AAC gets 1. And yes, our favorite independent gets 1. Mike, starting with you, looking at the preseason rankings, how do you think this is going to play out throughout the year now that we're actually looking at the rules and the rankings?
I think when the committee releases their power rankings, it's going to be a lot more interesting. I think in the past when they did, it didn't really matter because in the end we knew they would do whatever. With 4 teams, we kind of had an idea what they were going to do anyway. Even when there was a team that was ranked 2 or 3, we knew deep down Alabama was going to get in, right? I don't think anyone was shocked.
We said that on the air.
Yeah. But now I think it has more teeth, right? Like my school's at, and for a coach, my school's at 13, 14. I get to tell the guys, hey, we're playing this team. We can't just win. You gotta destroy. Like optics matter, all that stuff. And there's going to be a lot more data for coaches to use to motivate. I think it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of issues probably the first few years until it's all ironed out. But yeah, I think it's going to be good. But then I wonder once we get to the month-long playoffs, I wonder if it's just going to be too much. As teams start losing, do people stop caring when it's down to, a couple teams left? Do they lose? Because it's not just, college football is this week and next week. College football championship is here. Let's watch. Now it's like, wait, the season's still going on? So like that's the thing that I'm going to be interested in seeing how the public kind of follows it, because it's happening during the NFL. Like we have other things to do. It's not like we have to watch it.
All right, Jake, one of the things I just appreciated about you in your previous career is just how fair you were and how you did your homework based off how they're selected and the fact that you are a super fan of Notre Dame. What are your thoughts going into the season looking at the AP preseason poll?
Well, I'm just looking at it right now. I mean, I think it's a pretty fair representation. The thing that kind of stands out to me, Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, all they're in the top 9 of the AP poll. I guess I can see that. I think the Big Ten is going to be a little top heavy this year. But it's going to be interesting to me now with those, like I said earlier, the SEC adding Texas and Oklahoma, the Big Ten adding, SC and UCLA and Oregon. I mean, how much carnage will there be within those leagues? And then also some of the other leagues. I mean, what happens if you have a upset conference champion? How does that jumble things? It's almost kind of like the NCAA, the men's basketball tournament now, when you have an unexpected conference champ. But I think it's going to be a kind of wait and see process this year for the playoff. I'm excited about it in one respect. Also I lament a little bit the way things are going. I'm just kind of an old soul when it comes to sports in general and college football in particular. I liked it when you had 8-team conferences and you had the Southwestern Conference and the Big 8 and all these. It just every conference had their kind of identity, and I didn't even mind the bowl system instead of a playoff. I just thought it was unique and kind of cool, and split national championships and that type of stuff. But it'll be interesting. I'll certainly be watching. I think the home playoff games in the first round will be amazing. I can't imagine a December 20th game in South Bend. I can't imagine a game down at Ole Miss. It's going to be those atmospheres will be absolutely electric.
All right. So fans, I bet on sports, but I do it strictly for entertainment purposes only. Even my friends laugh at the amount of money that I spend on this. So here's a little bit of that background. During COVID, I wrote a book. I learned about sports betting because my wife charged me with, hey, make your time productive. And now here it is, 3 years later. I hope to get better at this. So during football season, every week on our Top Shelf Tuesday edition and our Throwdown Thursday show, I will share my season-long picks as well as my weekly game picks. If you follow me on social media, which we hope you do, at Odd Coaches and at CKA Save Project, you will see my picks. My information comes from a variety of sources. CBS Sportsline, just weekly planning and prep, and having regular conversations just like I do with my friends. The sports betting apps I use, and feel free to sponsor us if you want to. I use Caesars for my season-long bets. I use FanDuel for college football. I use ESPN Bet for the NFL. And just for the regular stuff, I use BetMGM. Again, if any of you all want to sponsor us, we will make you the official anything you want. My goal is 55%, okay? That's my goal, because an amateur sports prognosticator who makes 55% wins on his bets, it's doing a good job. So here we go, fellas. SEC. We got Georgia over 10.5, and we got Missouri over 9.5. That's where I'm going with the SEC. And George Ockert, you see the AP poll likes Missouri too. That's for the group chat. In the Big Ten, I've got Maryland going over 6.5, and I got Oregon going over 10.5. I like Oregon a lot. I do. Big 12. As much as I like Deion, as much as I love the process and everything, I got Colorado under 5.5, and I've got Utah over 9.5. In the ACC, mark it down. Here are the two teams that's going to mess up everything for everybody. I got NC State over 8.5. I got SMU over 8.5. They're going to mess it up, and man, SMU is trying to be big time. Jake, for my independents, I got Notre Dame over 10.5. I love Marcus Freeman. We've had private conversations. Yes, I'm rooting for the BCA. And I also am taking UMass under 3.5. Man, I got to follow some teams that's not going to do well. In the American, I'm going Memphis over 9.5 and University of South Florida over 7.5. In the Mountain West and the Pac-2, Boise State over 9, and New Mexico for my boy Robert under 1.5. Mike, they can't win 2 games, okay? I'm going to watch that all year. Conference USA, Liberty over 10.5 because they play absolutely nobody. And UAB, because I just dislike Trent Dilfer. I didn't like what he said last year, under 6.5. I've got a small bit of petty too. And finally, with a little Maction, Toledo over 8.5, and we have a running joke on the show, folks. I had to take a directional school for Michigan, Western Michigan, over 6.5. Mike, what do you think, man? Am I gonna hit 55% this year?
I mean, I saw a lot of things I liked. I like Georgia, Maryland, Oregon. I looked at Colorado's schedule just now because at first I was like, why? And then it's like, oh, they play 5 ranked teams.
That back end of the schedule is terrible.
It's gonna be tough. I like NC State a lot. Yeah, I see more. I really like the FIU one. I see more wins than losses.
All right, Jake, what do you think, man? Again, strictly for entertainment purposes only. How did I do? How do you think I'm going to do?
I like it. I like it. I like the Irish over 10.5. I think they can, especially if they win that first one, they've got a chance to run the table. I like NC State also. Everybody always sleeps on NC State, but that's a very, very solid program. I think you're right on Colorado. Georgia is going to be interesting because as opposed, I've got one of my good friends is a Georgia fan, and I always tease him that the schedule has been a little weak non-conference lately, but boy, their schedule is a bear this year. But that'll be an interesting one to watch, but obviously there's so much talent there. You'd have to pick the over there.
All right. So fans, on a weekly basis, I'm going to have Super Sevens. 7 on Saturday, 7 on Sunday, and we'll put our college bets out Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on our social media platform. And we'll do the same thing with the NFL. So we're going to have a game of the week, which is my best point spread bet. We're going to have a 2-play game of the week. The 2 games I feel strongly about point spread. Same thing with the 3-play of the week. Again, by doing it by point spread, hopefully I can get a good win or two over the week. We'll do a 4-play money line, and usually they'll be the teams I do season-long bets. We'll have an over game of the week in honor of Will Cotton. We'll have an under game of the week in honor of Iowa in last season, and we're going to have an upset of the week every week. So again, every Friday and every Saturday, every Sunday, check us out on social media, strictly for entertainment purposes only. Season-long bets fans, I bet $5 for all of those teams. Again, 5 to win like 3, so I win 8-17, and my wife could care less. And then every week for the Super 7, it's just $10, okay? $10, 7. I have my birthday money. I was born in August, so I used my birthday money to fund this. So I haven't come out the pocket for nothing. So before we close, last thoughts. Mike, anything in particular you're looking forward to in this greatest college football season predicted ever?
If Daniel Jones looks like he did yesterday, I'm going to be watching a lot of Georgia, a lot of Colorado, and a lot of Texas, because that's probably where my next quarterback's going to be. So I'm hoping Carson Beck looks good. I'm hoping Sanders looks good. I'm hoping Quinn Ewers looks good. Maybe one of them stands out when we've got our 1 pick. If he looks that bad, it's going to be a long year.
I love it. Jake, anything you are super interested in? I think I know where you go.
Oh yeah, you know where I'm going to go. I'm very interested in Kyle Field on August 31st, what the Irish look like, whether that offensive line holds up. If that offensive line holds up, this is going to be a very good offense, and it's going to be a team. Marcus Freeman, who you and I both just absolutely love. He hasn't hit with as many splashy recruits, but the overall level of recruiting has improved a ton, and you're going to see that in the depth and the overall athleticism of the team, not just the starters, but also the backup. So get through Kyle Field, and this could be a good year for the Irish.
All right. And for me, I just want to see the chaos, because at some point somebody is going to have what I like to call from wrestling the boo-boo face. And the boo-boo face is when you know you're going to lose and you still got to go through the match. And sometimes you can't hide that. And when we get to November and rivalry week and all of these things, there's just going to be some teams that are just going to say, darn, I'm going to be no higher than 15 and I'm out of this thing. And as Mike said earlier, then how long will you care? And then when will you just say, I'm not going to play anymore. I'm going to save my body for the portal, and just the fun that comes with it, because I'm not touching bowls for nothing. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at oddcoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.